If you're working on a logo or any kind of design project, in fact, nailing the brief is key. In this video, I'm going to give you 9 questions to ask your client to help you do just that. Let's go. Welcome back to Flux, where we talk design and freelancing. My name is Matt Brunton, and today we're going to figure out exactly what you need to know before getting started on a logo design. In fact, if you're working on a website or a campaign, you can translate these questions into your context and integrate them into your process. We're not going to talk about the how of designing a logo. We're going to talk about the how of speaking with clients and creating a great brief. Now, I can already see some of you thinking or getting your comments ready. Logo design, no. We should be designing whole corporate identity schemes or even working on detailed brand strategy. And I hear you. I know how deep these things can go. As well as working with my own clients, I also freelance with some of London's leading design studios and advertising agencies, and they create these incredibly detailed decks of brand strategy with lots of market research behind it and style guides which cover endless applications. Does anybody read these things? Maybe, yes, maybe they do. They are necessary for some larger companies, but I want to cast your mind back to March 2020, when many of us, I know in the United States and Europe, went into lockdown. And a famous graphic designer in the United States named Aaron Draplin, I've got his book here actually, his pal came round to visit him. And his pal, as I remember the story, he had been laid off. He was working at a bar. Here's Aaron. I wonder if he was as friendly as that when his friend came to his front yard. And he was working at a bar and he was running a food truck, and both of these things got shut down and this guy was unable to work at all. So Aaron said to him, well, I'm booked up for the next 6 months, but after that, we'll do a bit of market research and then we'll do a 360-degree brand strategy No, he didn't say that. He just said, let's get you up and running. We'll just design a logo. So they created this thing, the lawn tender, and off he was going, cutting grass and staying busy and working throughout the pandemic and the lockdown. And it's not always necessary to develop huge schemes. You might just be doing a logo, or that might just be your part of the process. So there is a time when you just want to ask the questions that are mainly related to logo design or an identity. And even the big boys, like some of the high profile agencies, like I think of Chemaev, Geismar and Haviv in New York, and they are famous for this, as it says, development of trademarks and identity programs. And it's particularly their logos like the US Open and Chase Bank, National Geographic and the American Bicentennial, that for decades have put them as the go-to people for icons, for logos. So there are some key questions that you want to ask, and the key thing over everything is to understand your client and what they need. So if these questions aren't answered by the existing brief, they will help you create a stronger brief. So here we go. Number 1, tell me about your project. So first of all, you want to put your client at ease. Just ask them an easy opening question. Tell me about your project. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your organization. Tell me about this initiative. Get some idea of how they talk about it. And if they don't go into this detail, ask them about the past, present, and future. The history of the company, what they do at the moment, what their offer is, and their goals. Get some idea of that, and it's a great way to kick off the conversation. Number 2, is there an existing logo? Is there an existing logo or any other visual assets? If so, you'll want to review them. And then ask the client, what do you think about them? Do you have brand recognition with this logo? Is there any equity built into it? So there might be elements that we're going to need to retain or reference as we evolve it. What isn't working? What do you want to change? Why do you want to change? What prompted this change? You need to be wise in what you change and what you retain when it comes to a rebrand. I think of Collins in New York when they rebranded Spotify. They decided to keep that icon that designers love to hate. It's not the most attractive proportions, but they felt that icon and the green was already recognized as a brand, so they kept that. But what they did was extend it with a wider color palette to make it more dynamic and more interesting. Similarly, Dixon Baxi from London, when they rebranded the Italian football team AC Milan, they kept the badge. Now, fans are very passionate about their team, and the badge can often be a symbol which holds a lot of those passions and a lot of that strong feeling. So they didn't mess with the iconic badge. They left it, but what they did was use the shape of the badge, the oval, as a graphical device to then create and extend a system. So think about what's there and what needs to change. Number 3, who are your audience? So you need to know who your clients' customers are, or who are the key stakeholders, the key people who are going to be the audience for this design. I would presume that preschool children probably have different preferences and different aesthetic to university students. So get some idea of the demographic, who the target is for this work, and that'll help you design something that is appropriate. Number 4, who are your competitors? So if you're designing a logo for a classic rock or metal band, often we see these same elements like lightning bolts and these angular type, and often word marks in all caps, and sometimes 3D effects. So these are things that are common to the category. So when we look at competitors, we want to think about parity. So that helps us to demonstrate our category credentials, that we belong within it. But we also want to think about difference. So how are we going to stand out within that category? So it pays to be deliberate about those. So find out who your clients' competitors are. And if they're giving you too few or too many, maybe ask them for who are your 3 main competitors to narrow it down. That will give you enough context for your work. Number 5, where will the logo appear? So you need to find out what the key applications are. Is this primarily a digital thing, or will it also have physical form? Will there be print, or will there be things that are being created, physical products? So find out where it's primarily going to live. Good logos are flexible enough to work across a range of applications, but knowing the key applications will help you make sure it's working hard in those areas, and even provide mock-ups for the client so they can see it in context. Car manufacturers are a good example, because recently a lot of them have been making their badges simpler and simpler in their rebrands, and that's because simple and solid logos tend to work better in physical form and across a range of applications. I think a great example in that category of a new brand that's entered it with a great mark is Polestar, and they have a really strong striking, simple mark and identity system that works really well in digital. It works at small sizes. It also works on the side of a building, and it also looks great in the physical products, in the vehicle design of the cars. Number 6, what is the brand name? What is the brand name as it should appear in the logo? Now, this seems obvious, but it's amazing how many times this is got wrong, or there's a breakdown in communication. So things like spelling needs to be checked, and also perhaps a company has a long name, so there might be a shortened form of that appears in the logo. Try not to, shoehorn in too many like taglines, or the shorter the better, really. And ask the client if there's any scope to change it. As you go through the process, you're going to be thinking of creative ideas. So you might want to use their initials and create a monogram or a shortened version of the word. Sony were originally known as the Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corporation, or whatever the Japanese version of that is. And that's a very descriptive name, but it wouldn't really fit on top of your camera. So Sony has worked really hard for them over many decades. So if there's scope to change a bad name, try and get them to change it. Number 7, are there any must-haves or must-nots? Now, sometimes clients aren't sure for a moment, but then when you begin to prompt them, there are things that definitely need to be retained, or definitely you shouldn't do. Like perhaps it shouldn't be in all caps because that would feel too shouty for their brand, or colours is a good one. Definitely prompt them and ask them about colours, must-haves and must-nots. Is there a colour that we have to retain? And think about the context, because in different sectors or different cultures, certain colours are associated with different political ideas or religions and things like that you might want to avoid. So be conscious of that too. Number 8, what feeling are you trying to evoke? So if you go to the store and you're looking for a drink, when you see Monster Energy, it's a very intense looking brand. But if you want to relax, you might be more likely to reach for LaCroix. Now, if these can designs were switched, that would be confusing and it wouldn't fit with the moment at which you might drink these beverages. So think about the feeling, think about the personality of the brand. Try and prompt the client and pick up a few adjectives. If you've got a big brand brief, if brand strategy has been done, you'll have this. But if you don't, just talk to the client about the feeling they want to evoke, the adjectives to describe their business and who they are and how it comes across. And finally, number 9, what will make this a successful project? And then pause. And the client might need to think about this for a while, but let them think and listen clearly to their answer. Without a goal, it's difficult to score. So setting up beforehand what will make this a successful project will help it to be so. Make sure you agree on the process, the timeline, and the deliverables. Find out what they're expecting and then maybe clarify for them or help them understand what should be and what needs to be delivered during the logo design process. And then when you get to the end, it'll really help you to refer back to that and show them that you've delivered what they've asked for and also what they need. So there you go, 9 questions to ask your clients. I hope this was helpful for you. Please let us know down in the comments which of these were particularly helpful, any questions you might add. This isn't intended to be exhaustive. And also, if you've got more questions about logo design, let us know. And if you want to see how the pros do it and some best-in-class examples of brand identity design, then check out our brand identity reviews on this channel. Until next time, happy designing.